Hello, happy Monday. I thought I would hop in here today and talk a little bit about some woo-woo stuff. So if that's not for you, then this video isn't for you. But if you've attended my Life on Your Terms workshop, you've probably heard me talk about this a little bit before. And there's so much going on in the world right now. You know, there's so much distraction, there's war, there's division, there's hate. All of this stuff is meant by design. It's all meant to divide us and to take our attention away from what's actually happening. You know, I just watched a video this morning that there are less than 200 delegates in the UN that will be voting a final vote in May of 2024 and deciding our fate when it comes to the WHO and our control and the control of movement in the world when it comes to pandemic preparedness and all that jazz. And so there's 200 people in this world that are deciding the fate of what we get to experience. And I think that so often we feel like all of this stuff is out of our control, and it's not. And so I want to talk a little bit today, I won't be long, but I want to talk a little bit today about 3D versus 5D. And so hear me out on this woo-woo stuff, but once you understand this piece of it, and somebody explained it so easily to me, so I'm going to explain it really easily to you. Once you understand what's actually going on in the world and that the distraction is all there to distract you, well, you know, the wool's being pulled over our eyes through media and through, you know, wars and hate and distraction, that there's an opportunity for you to choose different. Because you are in control of your life. You may feel like you're a victim of circumstance right now, but you're not. You can choose different. And although that may be a difficult decision, it may be one that you want to consider. So when we talk about 3D to 5D, okay, 3D is people that are living in the world that are making decisions based on what society has taught us, what our education system has taught us, what the government has said to us, what the media says. And although people say, I don't watch the news anymore, but they're still operating asleep. They're still going through and not paying attention to how the financial world is changing, not paying attention how globalists around the world are shifting and creating a different way of life for many of us in the future, you know, not realizing that all of these things are happening. And if we don't choose different, we're going to be stuck in a situation that we didn't choose at all. And so 3D people are going through the world in this, and you know, and I mean absolutely no offense to this, but they're going through the world as if nothing is going on, and they're being distracted, and they're in a fear-based state, and they're really upset and get triggered by all of these different wars, all of these different things. And I'll give you a really good example. A few years back, I went to a really good friend of mine who I trusted that I could have a respectful conversation with. And I said, you know, I'm a white girl from a white community. You know, there wasn't a lot of multiculturalism in my tiny little town that I was raised in. Although I went to Toronto and, like, you know, had all of these different ethnic friends, that was really cool because I got to learn about their cultures. But I said, I don't understand Black Lives Matter. So can you explain it to me? Can you explain, you know, I understand that this is a horrible thing that happened with George Floyd. And I also know that this doesn't just happen to people that are that color, that they happen to everybody. Like, we're all human beings here. So I need to understand this Black Lives Matter. And then it turned to Asians Lives Matter. And then it turned into a transgender movement. And before that, it was women's rights, you know? And so all of these activist movements are created to create conflict, to create distraction, to divide us, right? And so she said point blank, she's like, Christina, it's all a distraction. Pay attention to what else is going on right now. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting, you know, and you know, she shared a couple of stories with me because I hadn't moved to Mexico at the time. I hadn't experienced any personal racism until we moved to Mexico as immigrants, right? And so I got to see, you know, the hate that is out there in this world. And truly, honestly, everything would change if we just woke up to consciousness, right? If people took control of their own lives, their own trauma, that they healed all of these pieces of themselves instead of projecting hate and anger at everybody else. Like, I should be able to say anything that is kind and compassionate and thoughtful without getting hate or anger placed on it. But people that do that have not healed their own trauma. And we're only responsible for our own lives, our own experiences, our own emotions, right? The only thing that I can be held responsible for is how I show up in this world, how I, navigate this world, and how I deal with it with my personal emotions. I'm not responsible for anybody else's emotions. You're responsible for that. And so many people are out there in this triggered state, and they see the war in Ukraine and they're triggered by that and they're flying Ukraine flags. And then they see the war in Israel and then they're upset by that. And then what's next? What's next, right? And so all of these different movements are meant to trigger us and upset us, whereas there's a much bigger piece of consciousness that is happening right now. So people living in this world in 3D are living like they were centuries ago, and just living as if what is in front of you is reality, okay? Everything that you're being fed, all the news, all the media, all of that is reality, whereas it's not, okay? And so 4D people are people that have woken up. They see this for what it is. They realize the propaganda. They realize the hate that's going on in the world is meant to divide us and conquer us and allow people, a very small group of people, to take more power, right? So they get real mad. This group in the middle, they're awake, but they're angry, and they want to fight about it, and they want to scream about it, and they want to share all of these terrible things that are going on in the world and try and wake people up, right? It's not our job to wake people up. It's not our job to be a part of that conversation. It's our job to have grace as people wake up on their own. It's our job to facilitate that and have conversations like this that are outside of the box, that are a little woo-woo, right? And maybe have a bigger conversation if this sparks an interest, right? Conversations behind the scenes that are full of love and compassion and respect and understanding and lack judgment, but more so seek that understanding between two different sides, okay? And then there are the people that are moving into 5D, and they're already vibrating at a higher energy level, and they understand what's going on in the world. They know that it is out of their control. They can't do anything about it, but what they can do is control their own actions, their own emotions, their own feelings, the things that they wake up and do every day, whether they ground themselves and they meditate and they get their energy correct and they attract like-minded people and they create community and they are fighting for freedom and sovereignty. That piece of it all, right? As we watch more and more control being had, the smart cities is not a conspiracy. It's happening in the UK right now, and those things are going to start being implemented into our lives. I just read an article about the Bank of Canada not working with any outside banks outside of the country as of June 2025. What does that mean? That means that the government is going to come out with a CBDC, a central bank digital currency that they will control. I think a universal basic wage is coming for those of you that are struggling. And I understand that there are circumstances that are outside of your control that you cannot do anything about, but living below the poverty line on a government handout is not something that I encourage anybody to do. It's that we get to control the life that we have. We get to decide different. And a lot of the times it takes more effort, right? If you continue to choose the easy route, if you continue to choose the easy path, your life tends to be pretty hard. But if you choose what is hard, if you choose what is difficult, if you choose to do more in this life, you can have more. You have to become more. You have to become more of service and of value to the people around you if you want to make more money. You can take the skills that you have now and evolve them into something new, right? But easy, absolutely, Shelley. Easy is always harder. And so when you realize that you get to choose, when you realize that whatever's going on in the world is part of the distraction and that you get to decide day in, day out what you want, people think, moving to Mexico is difficult, and it can be. It absolutely can be. There's been challenges. There's been things that we've just wanted to pull our hair out over, right? But we chose to do different because we wanted different, and we wanted to live in a place that was in alignment with our values and our morals and our belief system. And so as you evolve and as you realize that you can't convince anybody of anything different. You're not here to wake people up. You're here to support them and love them along the way. And that you, by living your life, by being an example, is the thing that will help people decide that they can have more and do different. It's not a matter of lecturing people. It's not a matter of telling them what to do or trying to wake them up or trying to traumatize them by information out there that you found. It's a matter of taking comfort and totally owning who you are and living by example and doing what is right and living in alignment with those values. And so that's, that's part of living life on your own terms, is realizing you can't control what's going on out there. And if you're living under the control and you think, okay, well, this is the easy way, what are we going to do about it? That kind of thinking is what got us here. That kind of thinking, kicking the can down the line of like, what are we going to do about it? That's what leaves this problem as something for our children and the next generation to come. So we have to start making better decisions. We have to start doing more. We have to become more. We have to become the people required to make a different life. And for me, the hill that I'm willing to die on is my freedom, is my sovereignty in a world that is trying to control us, in a world that is trying to create a system where we're all under a global power. We have to decide different. And the only way that I see that happening is through business, is through choosing different. Sometimes you may have to move countries. Sometimes you may have to change jobs and retool. We look at AI and know that it's going to take over a lot of jobs because it'll be easier it'll be more efficient than humans are at their jobs, but it's not something that we need to fear because it's coming down the line. So we need to learn how to use it to our advantage. We need to, up our skill level. Maybe it's in the technology area, right? And learning how to embrace technology and use it to our advantage so that we can create an income and work from anywhere. I had somebody comment on my video this morning that it's great for people that work online as digital nomads and do affiliate marketing. It's great for those people. They can go and live and do whatever they want. They can live anywhere. Yeah, but we had to choose that. We had to choose to do something different. I had zero experience 8 years ago in this industry, but it was one that I understood will be part of the future, and one that I understood that I could help people with. I could help people in a bigger way evolve through this process. And if you can learn how to solve problems in the marketplace today that people will need in the future, right? Find the gap, find the place where that need isn't being met, and learn the skills that you need to serve those humans, you'll always win. You won't have to worry about money, and you won't have to worry about comparing your life to the Joneses, right? You simply start living life on your terms. And that's really what it comes down to. And like I said in the beginning of this video, there are less than 200 members of the UN that are meeting to decide the fate of the whole world and how the WHO is going to manage the whole world. Freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of health, right? All of those things. And so what are you willing to fight for? I find it really interesting that they're starting to put in these smart cities in the UK, and people are not abiding by the boundaries, right? There are 50,000 people that are like, I'm not staying in my 15-minute zone. I'm also not going to pay the fines that they're charging us if we leave that zone, right? Like, this is coming to a place near you. As much as I don't want this to happen, it's happening and coming down the line. So you're going to have to be so responsible for your life that you choose different. And it may be living somewhere else. It may be changing your career completely so that you have the opportunity to do so. It may be healing your past trauma so you're not triggered by any of these things, so that you can make decisions that are not based on emotion, but are based on facts and based on what you want, how you want to raise your kids, how you want to keep your family together, and how you want to experience this one life. We get one life. We get one shot. And how do you want to experience that? Do you want to be the person that gets up at 7 a.m. and works, 9 to 5 or 8 to 7, and you don't get to spend time with your kids, and you put them in a system that you don't believe in, and that system raises them because you're broke? No. So we have to make different decisions, and we have to decide to do different. And no, it's not easy. It's difficult, right? But it's possible for each and every one of us, and this is why I talk about it so often, is that times are changing. People are waking up. I see video after video about people wanting to leave Canada. Immigrants that have gone to Canada and are now leaving because they're like, it's impossible to live here, right? I think migration is going to speed up. I think that people are going to move to countries that are in alignment with them and in their values, and ones that they feel at peace in, ones that they appreciate their lifestyle in, right? As opposed to staying in a place that keeps them broke and miserable. And we just saw that coming down the line for even people that were making really great money. People that were thriving in business in Canada are now up to their eyeballs in debt, in taxes, and insurance, and all of those things in a system that is meant to break you so that a central bank digital currency can come on in, swoop on in, save the day for everybody that is going bankrupt and broke, and then you're on their terms. So you're choosing to be put in this box where you have to abide by all of the rules. And if you're a rule follower and that's something that you want to do and it makes you feel comfortable, great. But if you're somebody that is truly willing to fight for freedom and sovereignty, then you've got to choose different. And you've got to choose different now because it takes time to change. It could take 6 months. It could take a year. It could take 2 years. But you've got to choose now if you want something different. I hope that that was helpful today. You know, a little bit woo-woo, going from the 3D of like what the world is and the game that we're sold to 4D, to being woken up and realizing, hey, everything is not as it seems. And, you know, what we've allowed in control is not necessarily for our best interest. And so people are getting angry about it and they're standing up and they're telling their friends and they're standing on their what do they call it, soapbox, and try to convince people. Or you can live in peace, in harmony and joy in 5D and realize it's all going to happen anyways, but you get to choose different. If you're awake, you get to choose different and you get to live a different life. And this is going to become really apparent over the next couple of years because these two timelines, the 3D timeline and the 5D timeline, are going to arch away from each other. We've all been living in the same world, right? But I've talked about this a little bit in my workshop, is that you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose down either the path of easy and smart cities and digital currency, or you're going to have to choose the path of sovereignty and freedom. And it's going to be harder for you because, you know, as they implement these digital IDs, as they implement all of these things that are putting us under more control, you're going to have to choose different, and it's going to make your life a lot harder. Those of us that went through the pandemic and were not part of the majority, whatever that is, realize how quickly things can change, how quickly you can be stripped of your rights and not be able to get a driver's license or healthcare or grocery shop, all the go to restaurants, right? And so we already had a trial run. What do you want to see that comes next, right? And so you need to start setting up your life today so that you can live in freedom and sovereignty the way that you are now. And whether that is, you know, becoming more self-sufficient, being able to live off grid, growing your own food, living in different countries that are not under the same kind of control. That's what the option is. But you got to pay attention, and you got to be willing to do more than most people to create an environment where you can thrive and survive and be happy along the way. So there's my woo-woo talk for today. Hope you're having a good Monday. And if you want to have a bigger conversation around this, you understand what I'm speaking, the language that I'm speaking, then I'm always happy to hear you in my inbox and have a bigger conversation. But I think this is something that is so imperative that we start talking about because people are going to have to choose. And we made our decision a couple of years ago, and it's not always easy. Right? There are things that are going to go sideways. We've been waiting a year for our home to be built. We're probably a year behind in that. And I think that that's going on not just in Mexico, but in multiple countries, right? The uncertainty in the financial system and knowing that that's going to be turned on its head very, very quickly, and that fiat currency will be a thing of the past. We've never experienced anything like this before. We've never gone through this era of technology and AI, right? And so how we adapt as humans is completely up to us. We just have to pay attention. So I hope that helps today. Hope you have an awesome day. We'll see you again next time. And if you're not part of my group Life Transform, my free Facebook group, get on in there because I do a lot more content in there when it comes to business and building a life on your terms. Okay, have a good one.